Welcome to Unify. The future is here, my friend.
Yeah.
Welcome to Unify. The future is here, my friends. Welcome to Unify. The future is here, my friends. Welcome to Unify. The future is here, my friends.
Hello.
Welcome to Unify. The future is here, my friend.
Want to know something cool about this?
Welcome to Unify. The future is here, my friends.
If I call up DSP Quattro, I can show you. Let me see here. Make sure everything's working. Yeah. I see going on. Hello, guys. Hello, John the Magician. Oh, thank you. I am thrilled. We're doing a special live stream today because Unify 1.2, it's here. And it has some super cool abilities in it, and I want to share that with you. Check this out. Let's see if I go open recent audio files. So here's the original. Welcome to Unify. The future is here, my friends. That's the audio that is inside of the bonus samples folder for Unify 1.2. And if you hear, you'll hear.
Welcome to Unify. The future is here, my friend.
You hear me singing in the background. This is because I'm using a vocoder. This is a really cool.
Welcome to Unify.
It's kind of like the way convolution reverb works in a kind of carrier modulator kind of way. There's a sound going through of just a synth waveform. Big, but you don't hear any of it until it's excited by the frequencies of audio. And so that's using something that's new to Unify called Combo Box. And so this is we actually started building this for another reason, but it turns out that a side benefit was that it made making vocoders really easy. And if you look in the list of audio effects that come with Unify, let's see, I think I'm on the main full screen. So if I here, go like this, there. So there is Combo Box. Right here is the vocoder, and if you go through the list, audio effects, Unify standard modulation, at the end of the list is the vocoder. And so this is a really cool effect that has some parameters for controlling the different frequency bands. How many bands are there? 8 or 16, all sorts of stuff. Well, these are actually kind of difficult to configure in some DAW recording, like Logic. It's really challenging to get it set up between the channels. Combo Box concept is that this is a single plugin that can be in MIDI effects, instruments, or audio effects, and it allows you in a single plugin space to interact with all of your, MIDI effects. All of your instruments are available, and all of your audio effects are available. So if I wanted to, I could go say Valhalla. I could say I want shimmer. This is the Valhalla shimmer reverb. If I double click, there's the parameters. And I can let's break the cables, and then you just click and drag to connect. And just like doing this, I have added the shimmer reverb to my chain.
Welcome to Unify.
So now I have shimmer verb. So this is one of many things in the update to Unify 1.2, and I'll be giving you details. I'm going to do some videos in the coming week or weeks probably about all the parameters inside of Combo Box, the concept, how to design and do things. We might do some of that here, but I'm not going to get super in depth, or I'm going to try not to get super in depth because there's a lot to cover. This is by far, I think, the biggest update we have released. It does so many cool, exciting things for us. So to start with, I should probably just play some of the patches and explain a little bit about what we can do now, because will you be doing Black Friday deals? Not on Unify. Unify won't be on sale during Black Friday, but maybe the libraries around Unify will be on sale. Something like that. But Unify, I've said, will never be on sale. It's at its selling price. It will always be at that selling price. So it won't be in Black Friday. I want it to be so that you know when you buy it, you're paying the same price as everybody else. I get so frustrated when I spend $200 for something and now it's free. And I just will never put any of you through that with the software we create. If I create software and it's set to do something and it doesn't, and it's a fair price, then that's the price it will be for everybody. No matter how many albums you've sold, it's the same price. No matter how many films or songs, or if just working in your bedroom, it's the same price, and it's an affordable price for everybody. So Unify won't be on a Black Friday sale, so you can buy it when you want and know that you're paying the same price as the guy in the airplane seat next to you, right? That's really important to me. And so that's how we work. Sound libraries, I discount and do silly things with those because, especially if they've been out for a little while, it's fun to do that and promote and so forth. But not to software. Software is a little bit different for me. So 2 live streams, 2 days in a row. Yeah, exactly. So, the big things that we added into Unify. So here's the thing. Unify is not expensive if you think of what you can do with it. And also you have to realize we've done now 5 revisions. Each revision has come with additional bonus patches showing off completely new capabilities added to Unify as a free update. So this one is by far the biggest update as far as to cool new things you can do. Combo Box allows you to get into doing cool vocoder things. It also lets you get into doing things like this. I'm gonna just solo this top. This is, I'm playing a sound. It's a harp from Mega Magic Dreams. And because of Combo Box, I have it set up and playing 5 MIDI boxes of MIDI data. And I have them mapped on top of each other. I have the MIDI filters set up for different keyboard ranges. By the way, keyboard range is now a matter of right-clicking and it's a question mark. It's no longer this big pop-up and you just say what you want it to be and it's there. You can hold down Option or Alt and click if you want the old big pop-up box, but anywhere there's a key range now, you can just like that and you're done. So it's so cool. In fact, one of the cool things that we can do is like, I could say key range to multiple layers and I could say set everything to G and it just set all layers instantly like that to G. So I love shortcuts and fast ways of doing things. So that's one of them. So here are 5 MIDI files that are playing in different ranges and different speeds. Like if I wanted to take the one that's in this range, I think that's this one. And I can go here to transpose. And that only affects from C3 to G8, that MIDI file. Right? But other MIDI files are playing too. So let's say if we set this back to double click and say 12, or right click and say 12. So we're using this to play multiple MIDI files across the keyboard in different ranges. I'm gonna slow down my tempo. Then you add the pads to it. So, Combo Box in the MIDI file, MIDI effects slot lets us do things with MIDI files. We're using that inside a Discover station, which is a library we'll be releasing probably in 2 or 3 weeks, I'm thinking. We got a lot still to do to this, and I did the free Halloween library, and I did the this update and 32 patches for this. So it's been pretty busy, to be honest. But by using combo boxes, I don't know if I use combo boxes in this one or not, but Jeff has some stuff here that are really, really cool. Multiple combo boxes being used, say for some of these like Sound Like Williams, where there's different MIDI files being transposed. Sometimes just a single, sometimes 4 different MIDI files. To do all these really cool things for this library. So Combo Box is super powerful for all sorts of things beyond what we know. The exciting thing with Combo Box is that this opens up some doors for people to explore new things and stuff like that. So Combo Box is definitely a huge boost. The ability to do vocoding.
Welcome to Unify. Welcome to welcome.
Down at the bottom, there's some vocoder patches where I'm going E and ah, and like here's oh yeah for
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
or ah. So this is an ah voice sample powering a synthesizer. So if you open Combo Box, the left side is what we call the carrier or the modulator. And then the right side is the carrier, which is the sound underneath. That's the body of the sound. And if you go to this and say, no, I want this to be a different thing, like Piano in the Clouds, it's kind of soft and warm. So whatever I use to power the carrier side, if I go to Retrosphere and I choose, you hear my voice in there. Now, the brighter the sound, the more you're going to hear what's going on from the vocoder, because the vocoder has all this frequency. This is a warm sound, so you're only hearing this part of everything in the audio. So if you go to something like this, it's a big warm kind of thing. But if I wanted to, I could go, what if I use Serum? So let's use Serum. Oh, these are instruments, favorites. I have Serum effects here, but I don't have Serum. Well, let's go all instruments because we can see it here. X for records, Serum. There it is. Let's take this cable and plug it in here and have this go over here and this go over here. And we can say remove this because we're not using that. And then go to Serum and call up whatever patch we want inside of Serum. So we could go to Mega Magic Evil. There's an Evil library we did that's got all sorts of really cool bright synths and stuff. So now Serum has replaced Guru Sampler for the synth engine. So any patch I call up goes into and then you can go down to the knobs, and we've set up so that you can replace any synthesizer in the vocoder chain to be whatever you want instead of Serum. You could just right click and remove it and replace it and stuff like that. So that's the Combo Box for all sorts of things. The other thing that's really cool is drums. We have a couple of these things called vocoder stereo. I didn't even put these with drums in it, but these are powered by drum grooves. So let's say a little bit faster. And you can actually, I brought up the drum groove to top level so you can include it. or not. And so, and this is actually, we've got both, this is using Combo Box as a mono vocoder. We can also set it up as a stereo vocoder. And the difference there is that the output of both the audio that's triggering this, in this case, it's Midi box playing a drum kit. And I send it to the modulator of two different vocoders. And then I take the output of Guru's sampler and I feed it into each of those two different vocoders. And then I just take the left side and I just take the right side. And that makes it a true stereo chain of the pad. So it's not powered mono, it's now stereo for the pad you hear. And if you listen and compare to this, hear how that's mono? So we're doing both true stereo and mono vocoding. And again, there's so many places to go with Combo Box we haven't explored. If I wanted, I could just go over here and say I wanted to add Omnisphere to this. And it'll take a second because Omnisphere takes a second to load up. And I can take a MIDI file over here. Actually, let's go this way. Connect MIDI. Hello, connect MIDI. And then take these two outputs and just route them right here to the audio output. And they've now been joined into the fun. So I could go to Omnisphere, just double click the object and go to, say, one of the Omnipulse libraries or something like that. And choose some sort of a cool, like, let's say a cool synth part, let's see, or pad or something like that, like Sharp Mystery. And now, Omnisphere's in it. And what's fun with this is that you could then save this as a single layer preset, all that kind of stuff, so you can load it just a single layer. One rule to remember is that a layer talks to a core, just one core of your computer. The cool thing with Unify is that if you have 3 or 4 layers, that's talking to 4 different cores of your computer. If you build up a huge complex thing in Combo Box, it has to be able to be played with one core of your computer. So don't go super crazy. If you go super crazy with 6 Omnispheres, you're gonna have a sad computer, right? So that is some of the cool stuff we have going on. What is Oblivion's Edge? Oblivion's Edge is a really cool library available. Yeah, so we have Ilio people here. They have some killer libraries for Omnisphere. If you don't know, Ilio is our partners that get Unify into music stores and into like the Sweetwater website and so forth. So you can buy Unify in other locations. And Mike Babbitt and his team there have made some really cool libraries for Omnisphere. So if you're looking for new sounds and want try, Oblivion's Edge is a cool library. There's all sorts of stuff that they've done for Omnisphere and other plugins. They're the distributors for Spectrasonics and a whole lot of Vienna and Symphony Ensemble, all sorts of great companies. So they're good people. We're honored to be a part of their blanket umbrella of companies that they work with. It's really cool. All right, so one other thing that is super cool and that I am super thrilled with is wave sequencing. We can do a form of wave sequencing. It's not the ultimate in wave sequencing, and we have places we want to go in the future, but we can do rhythmic wave sequencing inside of Unify. And it sounds like this. I'm gonna slow it down just a little bit. And what's fun, so let me explain how this works, because it's really cool and it's not that complicated to set up, even though it looks a little overwhelming because it's this big stack, right, of a whole bunch of different things going on. So let's go like this so I can resize this to be a little bit bigger and better. This is a wave sequence. The way we do this is at the very top of the mountain. Picture it as a river. MIDI box is playing a MIDI file, and that MIDI file has timing to it, right? Well, that timing, when it hits Polybox, Polybox's job is each note it gets, the next note goes to the next MIDI channel. And we can do that, and that gives us the ability to make mono synthesizers play as polyphonic synthesizers, because you could have 8 layers of the same synth with 8 sound. Each note is being played on a different MIDI channel, and now you have 8 voices of polyphony. It's kind of how MPE works, where each note is independent. It can have its own pitch bend, volume, all the settings, all that stuff. Well, we had that ability inside of, I think even, let's see if we go tags, I think it was 1.12, let's see. Yes, in 1.0.12, we did Polybox, and Polybox gave us the ability to do this kind of stuff. And when I play a chord, it doesn't drop out. Especially when I'm streaming, it takes up so much polyphony, I guess, or something. But it plays, and if I play a chord of 4 notes, then it takes those 4 notes when there's 4 notes in the MIDI file. If it's just 1 note, it just plays 1 note. So Blue Arp is doing things where it's playing chords and then single notes and chords and so forth. And whenever it plays as a chord, let's see if we go Polybox and reset. If I play 4 notes, see how it takes up 4 different layers to play that chord. Well, we now have a mode where we say chord, and now every layer, right? There's this one patch, I think it is. There's one patch and that has the polyphony problem. Let me go to another like simpler one that shows this 1, 2, 3 Polybox. Let's actually go to the wave sequence stuff, because these are optimized and play better and don't have long releases. There's something in that patch I need to fix, because it's not supposed to do that. But what we did is, if I go to Polybox and say mono, if I play a chord, it's taking 4 layers to play that chord. With chord mode, it now takes only 1 layer, and it'll play all the chords. The problem was when you take your hands off and you play again, it continues from where it stopped. Now the next one's going to be 7. So when I play notes, right? So I talked to Shane, and we came up with a system where there's an automatic, this little reset resets it to start at this first step in the sequence. And now it automatically does it. So each time I take my hands off the keys and play again, it starts at number 1 every time. If I don't take my hands off the keys, I can change chords and do whatever I want, and it just updates. So this is pretty much how wave sequencing works in the rhythmic context. Like if I don't want that to be a guitar, I could go load from layer preset. I could go to GUI sampler, and I could say pad Klamath, and now. And then to make it work in a rhythmic way, you'd want to move your sample start later and release the sample shorter. Right? Now, what's fun with this is if you look at this, it's playing layers. And each of these layers, if I wanted, I could have this be, let's go to my favorites, just so I say, like, say Anna 2, and boom, Anna 2, and then 5. Anna 2 is now the first step in my wave sequence. And I want this to go into, let's say, like, say, just like RP reverb. This is Rob Pappin's reverb. step can be any plugin you own and use any effects you have for the wave sequence. So it opens up awesomely cool, exciting doors. And on top of that, the timing, the MIDI file that triggers this, I could change to another patch and it changes the wave sequence immediately. And you could play in anything you want with your own timing feel and use that to power this wave sequencing changing for rhythm. I worked on the wave station, I did voicing, and they use samples that they licensed for me for the wave state. It's a super cool, very, very powerful wave sequencing engine that can do crossfades and all sorts of things we can't do right now. But we can do things they can't do. For one thing, the timing in both wave station and wave state is perfect clock. There is no shifting of timing. Here, the timing is entirely based on a MIDI file of whatever you want to play. So that's revolutionary. Then the fact that each step can be any plugin you own and have any effects you own. We weren't able to add effects just to independent steps when doing stuff for the wave state or something like that. So these are new abilities we have for wave sequencing to do all sorts of cool things. And if you take this and you go from here, this is level 1. So it's just a wave sequence by itself. 15 steps, because I do an 8th note for the first step, then everything else is 16th notes. So it's... Now watch this. Level 2, it's all that, but I've added to it. I've added this, which is a cool pad, and drums. And now you have super cool, right? And then, of course, because it is I Am Who I Am, I'm gonna take Wave Prophet to level 3. This is the finale, and you have a bass, and it's split, and right? So using that concept, there's so many crazy, insanely exciting places we can go. Is the crossfade of the wave sequence, right? Pump house is not the crossfade side of the wave sequence. No, I don't know what you mean by that. The wave sequence, there is no crossfade. The crossfade is decided by the envelopes of the sound. So if I make this have a slower attack, then it's a slower attack fade in. Pump house is being used right now only on the pad for right here for the, that's pump house. And if you want, you can go to pump house and you can invert this just by going like this. And you've inverted it. So that's no problem, my friend. But that's not what's happening. The timing is totally happening because of the MIDI file. And how the sounds play when they get triggered from the MIDI file depends on how each layer is set. You could program things to be slow. I believe I can do some crossfade kind of things by having MIDI file where like octaves maybe play and I have one play before the other stops because it's not monophonic. MIDI files can be playing multiple notes if you want. So there's all sorts of possibilities. Other examples of wave sequencing. This is a big one with octaves. I'm gonna just play open chords. Right, I'm just playing 4 notes. And it's 4 different sounds, and then there's a pump house that gives it the rhythm. And I actually have on the macro knobs set up so you could turn off pump house. Then you bring in pump house. And now you've got 100% pump house. There's a couple new presets in the preset list for pump house, including these, like the Sequence Silk is a cool pad for the. Okay, so again, I'm going to be making videos showing how to do each of these abilities in the coming week. I've got a whole list of videos to make. And in a minute, I'm going to go down the list of everything that is new in Unify. I'm just giving you a demo, and I'm kind of taking more time than I probably should because this is super exciting to me. But let me show you, I just showed you a second with that Sequence Silk pulse, right? So let me show you Sequence Silk as the patch that that pulse is used for. Here's the wave sequence that is in Sequence Silk. Right? You just play it and you got this really cool rhythmic thing going on. Now, in order for, I decided to use this just for the left hand. The right hand I decided to make into a pad. And there's where that pump house with that, right? And then the Sequence Silk, the finale, has both that rhythmic wave sequence. I'll turn down the bass for a minute. And then drum groove is here. It's a little bit different than the wave sequence up here because when you're playing across the keyboard, the whole thing, you can't have I have it doing some incidental tricks. Oh, sequence stuff right here. That fifth and stuff like that. If you do that in a sound you play across the whole keyboard, then you get these chords that have fifths and it doesn't sound right. So, but if you aim at the wave sequence being just in your left hand, you can do all sorts of cool things. Super fun. And then I have controls down here. So you can play with stuff. I love this bass. This is a DX bass. Sounds great with the drums. And then the wave sequence. So we'll get in, we'll make a wave sequence from scratch here in a few minutes. Another thing that's added inside of Unify that's really, really cool is we have, let's do this with one. This is the Swanky Amp. This is a cool distortion. Let me mute my microphone so I can hit. So we show this, it's a free effect that they made available. And the gentleman that's got this company, Resonant DSP, we wrote to him and just got a really nice relationship started with him. And he had the code available on GitHub. So we're like, hey, would it be possible to include this with Unify? And he said, sure. So here it is as a bundled plugin. So when you go to your list and you go to Unify Standard to Distortion, Swanky Amp is right there. And so we have a really nice, it's fully modeled amp distortion. The way he does it is really intricate. And he's working on a pro version. We'll let you know when the pro version is available. I use this both for some really cool, like here's a velocity for the mutes and right? As well as I did some fun stuff with the acoustic Martin guitar inside of Unify. And if you put a pad with that, and then this is using the new sample delay to offset the left channel by 2,500 samples. Let me kill my microphone so you don't hear my thumping. So you can do fun stuff like this. This is where I'm sending the signal mostly into the left and right channels of two buses for the distortion. And then I have volumes right here to bring in the original, oh, right here, sorry. There's the original dry. But I have just brought in a little bit of the dry signal, right? And then there's a pad and it has its own effects on it and it's beautiful, fun stuff. I did a couple other things kind of like this. There's, I think Running Towards Freedom has a, and this has a cool thing going on. These are all the same MIDI file playing, but it's randomized, as you can tell. The left and right side are just doing this like random, even though it's playing the same consistent thing that's found here, that's because of Jitterbox. I have it set to a timing delay and then having it randomize and having it do note quantizing of those delays so it can only play randomly up to a 16th note to an 8th note back and forth for the notes. So even though they're all the same part, it's changing all the time. So fun stuff like that is available. There's so much in this now that we can do, plus all the stuff we could do before with the other 505 patches that came. So Unify now has 537 patches, and couldn't be happier with what we have going on. Yeah, giving. Yes, you can play Sunshine Reggae. So let me show you the changelog real quick and just talk about all this stuff. It's crazy what we have here. Let's see here. View. Here we go. So there's no more distinction between the Ilio and the Plugin Guru versions. What that means is you can go to the Ilio website to ilio.com/unify-updates, and the files are available for you to download. Because Unify is a licensed product, you can download the files, and until you have a license, it won't work for you. Once you have a license, it works. So you can come here and download the updaters. For those of you that have problems with anti-spam software, come to the Ilio website. You'll get the files nice and easy. Faster patch database rebuilds. That's because by default, this little lightning bolt in the browser is now set up to be what's called a quick database rebuild. Oh, why are you doing that? And so if I click here, it will just quickly check everything. Uh, yeah, Cherry Audio. I need to get links. Good question. I don't know if I have those on the Unify page for the Cherry Audio. If you go to the live stream about Cherry Audio's 2 products, the links are listed there. I can put, let me put them into the chat. Oh, let's see here. Let's come over here. Go to this folder. I need to update that for all of the different files. So here is the library link for the DC106 library. We have unified a whole bunch of different factory libraries, including 2 of them from Cherry Audio for their 2 synths. So by calling this up, it will call up the DC106, which is a really cool Cherry Audio. It's a little CPU heavy. I remember I'm streaming high def, and my partner Melanie downstairs, I believe, is watching some video on her phone at the same time. So my bandwidth might be limited. Oh, that wouldn't affect here. Anyway, the link for here, let's see. This is for DCO 106. And let me get you the link for the new library. They just released a really cool version of the ARP 2600. They call it the CA 2600. And so we've unified all of the patches for this as well, and they are available. CA 2600. There. And so what's fun with the libraries being unified is that you can take this sound and we could go to another library, like Pendulate's also been unified. So we could say load a Unify into a new layer. And then we could go to the UniScream library and go to something like some sort of cool, there are all sorts of leads made for this free library that you can get. Let's say juiced. Let's see what that sounds like when we add this into a new Unify layer. So we're using 3 different patches from 3 different libraries super quickly. So that's the reason why the libraries, even the plug and glue libraries, have been unified. So I could go to, I'm working on Del Norte. That should be out shortly. I go to Toxic Omnisphere and say we want to have like some sort of a mega rave and load that into a layer, and so you can quickly get into trouble because you can layer up any of the patches that are in all these libraries, boom, like that. So that's super, super cool. So there you go. Yeah, Will's talking about Semi, and someone on YouTube did a really nice video showing a live improvisation with Spitfire Audio's new Abbey Road library. Is there a possibility to see both the knobs and the keyboard at the same time? We don't have that right now. What I could do is put in like a show MIDI inside of Logic. I think I have one right here all ready to go. So I can go like this and then shorten this, and that way you can see both. By the way, this is a free MIDI effect. This and ModMate are both available at the Plug and Groove website as free MIDI effects to give you a keyboard, or the ModMate's really cool because it gives you the real-time sliders on the screen for modulating and doing things in real time. So here, going on with the list, some other things that were added to Unify 1.2. Maybe I'll just read them to you. So the database I was talking about, if you click this, even with a ton of libraries, you'll notice it updates really fast because no new libraries have been added. But we also have the regular way before 1.2. If you hold down Option or Alt to click, now it's going to do the full, complete, read every patch. And this takes significantly longer. And I'm on an SSD hard drive, so it's still faster than some of you were. So you'll find that it's much faster now to do library rebuilds if you want. If you're going through the patches and you've scrolled to here and you're using the arrow up and down to change, you can hit the F key on your keyboard and it will toggle the favorite. Right? So that way you can now just say, show me just favorites, and it just shows you the ones you have favorited. So that was a cool, nice addition. And if you hit F again, turns off the favorites. We now have built-in plugin delay compensation. So if you're using universal audio effects, this would of course be when you're using it as a plugin inside of a host where the clock is being determined by something else instead of real time. In standalone, it can't do that, I don't think. I believe it's just for in a DOS situation, but maybe Shane can correct me on that. I'm not 100% positive on that. But that delay compensation helps with a whole bunch of different effects that take up a lot of CPU power and processing time to process and so forth. We did some changes to the save dialog. Instead of this being called as save and all that, it's now update. So you know clearly what that means. Save layer patches, save layer, now Shane, you'll need to check this. Your changelog is called save layer presets, but here it says save layer patches. Save layer presets, save as, saves multiple copies of the current preset with each one having just one patches layers. So it will save it broken out for you. If you have a huge thing and you just want to save simple things, you could just grab one of those layers to put into the list to use later. You can do that and it'll save them out as independent layers. So that means if I took one of these patches that's big and has a whole lot going on and I save it in layers with that option, it will save, if it's 8 layers, it'll save 8 patches. So that is there for those of you. The macro knobs, as you can see, we now have 32. So that gives us the ability to control 32 different sets of targeted parameters, link parameters. And so we've done some other improvements and other things to how this all works. One thing that's really cool is we now have where you can say copy, and then you come over here and say paste, swap, and paste, swap, and swap knobs. So you can fully swap knobs. You also have the ability to go over here and say copy this parameter, and now you can just use this to paste multiple copies. And if you're doing something that's like for 5 layers, you want it to do the same thing, you can double click here and you could say layer 2, and double click here and say layer 3. And I don't have layer 2 and 3, but if I go over here and say duplicate and make another one, and then go duplicate to make another one, boom, now I do, and they show up, they've grabbed it, so the parameters work. You have, since our past update, we have the little audition here. It still does it where you can audition just by clicking the bullets and hear it, which is just the coolest way to do assigning of modulation sources, because you can hear in real time the depth of what it's going to be when you get to a certain point. I don't know anybody else that does that, so that's super cool. The in-place layers setting, I showed that earlier. If you right-click, it pops up just a question mark, and then you just play a note, and it goes, got it, it's done. It used to look like this, and you can still get there by holding down Option or Alt, and now it stays there until I close it. So that's the old way of working. I wanted a faster way of working, so that way I could say boom, 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 and I can set all these 3 layers to be at a max of B. I just did that, it's done. Nothing plays above that. You can even get all the way super crazy and like say, I want to do high and low note and just play a note, And now all those layers are only playing on that one note that I assigned it to. So for drum kit assignments and all sorts of things you can do with key ranges, those are really nice, quick access ways to do that. And I'll reiterate this since this was from our last update. Once you have splits, you can hold down Option and Command, or is it, let's see. There's one of the keys here. Yeah, it's Control and Option let you control the fade of the key splits. And if you hold down the Control or the right key, you can still modify and it keeps it intact. And if you hold down Control and Shift, you can actually change the curvature of the fade. I've never seen anybody else in any other environment do that. So that's a unique thing. If you click right in the middle, it moves the whole range. If you click to the right, it's the top. If you click to the left half, it's the bottom. So just picture this divided into thirds. So you can easily move around the key ranges that you set up for layers just with your mouse. You don't need to do anything over here to modify. You can right click and now you're actually changing the high note and low notes. So it's a fast way to change these without even needing to go over and use these if you don't want to. So we have all sorts of ways of interacting with setting up top and bottom note ranges. We have the option to suppress MIDI in audio effects. This is like, there's certain, is it like Infected Mushroom has a really cool reverb. I don't know if I have it installed, but anytime you load in an audio effect that has MIDI capabilities, let's see, I'm gonna have of course I'm not gonna find one now, maybe one of ours. Oh, maybe Reverb, Valhalla Vintage, just listen to MIDI. No, it takes a certain type of a plugin for us to recognize, and I'm not sure. Yeah, none of these have what I need to see. I haven't got this part of my demo down. But if I was to go over here and say stutter edit, this is one that has MIDI. So you see an M button show up that you can turn off so that it doesn't listen to MIDI if you don't want it to, or you can turn it on and it will listen to MIDI so that it is interacting on the keyboard as you're playing it. So that's very cool. I showed you Combo Box earlier. That's a new effect that can show up and under utility, both as a MIDI effect, MIDI effect. Under an instrument, you can go to utility and find Combo Box, and it's also available. And, oops, took a minute to get that. As an go up here to Unify Standard Utility Audio Effect, and if it's an audio effect, then these would be used for routing the audio, and these are for MIDI. So you can have Combo Box in all three slots if you want. And it will do whatever you have it set up to do. So it's a really cool, very flexible, unique plugin. What it does that's really cool is it gives you access to all of your MIDI effects, all of your synthesizers, and all of your audio effects in one environment. And so I'm using that inside of 1.2 to do the vocoder, stuff like this, where here, this is another one's really cool. Right? So if you open Combo Box, there's a MIDI box playing a drum groove MIDI file that I made, and it's playing it by a drum kit, the trance kit. And if I change things on the trance kit, this also controls the energy going in, right? And then over here on the right side is another Guru sampler, and this is the sound that's being right, and then I can go down here to the knobs and then for fun I added a drum groove playing the same MIDI file. So you can do all cool stuff like that. I think it's 4 measures long. So there you go. So combo box is useful for all sorts of fun things like that. So very cool. Polybox, well, let's see here. So then the sample delay effect. Oh shoot, I just lost my changelog. So let's go back here. Changelog. Unify. In case, if you want to see this page with all the changelog, here's the link. Yeah, we'll look into that. Thanks, Larry. Oh, Shane just posted the changelog too. Cool. So yeah, we got you guys covered everywhere, coming and going. So also on top of this, the stereo sample delay. Let's put that just at the end here. It's under delay, sample delay, and this allows you to shift, and you can double click right here to say 3,250 samples, and it just shifts the samples by absolute amounts. You can also do it by milliseconds in case you want to say, no, I need it to be 89.4 milliseconds, and it goes all the way up to 250. You can use this for cool stereo offsets. Right? So it has its uses for delay compensation in combo box and in other situations. So Shane made it, put it in there. We have an audio file player that we are including for our first, which is pretty cool. This is being used inside of the Welcome to Unify.
Welcome to Unify. The future is here, my friends.
These are actually, here, let's do this. Let's go init, go to Unify. I think it's under utility, audio file player. Go to Unify standard library and go over here. And if I say, welcome to Unify, welcome to Unify, there it is. And so you can use that. If you turn on loop and it's an audio loop, it will loop perfectly. It streams from hard drives, so it can be as long of an audio file as you want, which means you can go in and have it play complete songs, have yourself duplicate this like 6 times. Duplicate. Actually, we could use that, but I won't. But you could have each one playing a separate stem for a song. Go to the transport, set it up to be like manual start and stop. Welcome to Unify. And now it's a DAW. You're playing multiple tracks of audio, and then you can jam along with it. So you can have this play a backing song track stems while you're playing live of it with other layers playing synthesizers and stuff like that. So that is a nice, we have other things to do in the future with this direction, but we decided to include the basic MIDI file player for now. So there you go. Also on top of this, I showed earlier the Swanky Amp. This is Unify standard distortion Swanky Amp, which I can go like this. I need to set my trigger mode back to MIDI. That means I'm playing keys to start it. Welcome to Unify. Welcome to Unify. All sorts of things to change. Thanks. So all sorts of things to set up the amp to be nice, cool model distortion. So that is a really cool thing to have inside of here. And then we get to the MIDI box, polybox changes. I'll talk about those in a minute. We'll build a wave sequence from scratch together in a minute. I'm gonna show you how that works. Also, be aware we have under utility a MIDI monitor to watch notes and controllers. If you ever need to know what's going on, I've actually made it as a layer preset. So you could go add instruments and to utilities, and there's just MIDI monitor. So you can load this up and open, and now you can see, make sure MIDI's working. We have a monitor built into Unify to work with, so that's there. The MIDI filter, This is super handy as a MIDI effect. Go to Utility, MIDI Filter. This has the ability to set key ranges now. It was originally made for sustain pedal. If you have a software synth, a lot of the free ones don't, sustain pedal doesn't work. We can simulate, if we say emulate now when you play the sustain pedal on your keyboard controller, it will emulate sustain for plugins that don't have sustain, or you can suppress it so that no matter what you play, it doesn't work. You can go over here and right click and choose MIDI CCs that you want to filter out up to 6 different MIDI CCs you can filter. So if you don't want it to listen to certain ones or not listen to aftertouch or pitch bend, filter is all, you can even route the output to a different MIDI channel and transpose. So it's beefed up a lot. We did this because of its uses in Combo Box for complex MIDI things that Jeff and myself are doing. We needed those flexible abilities and options to work with. We have some different default settings for Omega Delay. The MDA plugins got updated, which is really cool. So if we say init, go over here to instruments to MDA DX10. And the big update is that up here you can choose between all the patches. And change them. These were kind of hidden before. You could find them by going down here to program change and they'd be listed here. Well, we brought them up so that they are now actually in the plugin interface, which is nice for both DX10. JX10 is super handy to have. There's some killer patches in here. So you can access those from the interface. That's kind of a benefit. We were doing this to also in the vocoder, you have access to the handful of presets that come with a vocoder. So we added it to DX10 or JX10 as well. So that is cool. If you plug in and disconnect USB and MIDI controllers, we now actively will connect and you don't have to go to the settings and turn it on. It's just automatically turned on. We had a customer asking if there's a way to turn it off. Right now there's not, but we are going to be doing a maintenance update probably in a week or two that will have whatever small little issues or whatever issues we find that we need to fix. There will be a maintenance update at some point here in a week or two to deal with a couple things that we've heard about already. Nothing major, nothing that's showstopper, thank goodness. We also did some things for licensing so that if your computer updates, licenses remain intact and we don't have those problems that some of you have had in the past. So that's a nice advance. All sorts of nice things to get Unify to where it is. It's our most robust and capable version to date. And I'll just play a couple patches. This is one with wave sequencing. Oh, and then in a minute we're gonna make a wave sequence and then we'll probably call it quits. I'm gonna do this live stream again tomorrow, same time. So if you missed watching this when it was live at 12 p.m., it will be live tomorrow, Saturday, the 7th, right? That's the 7th, yeah, of November. We will have another live stream. What's fun with this one is the knobs have some really cool things in them, so you can go over here and change parameters on the drums. Pattern. You can also filter the wave sequences. And then pump house. make the wave sequences have more of a pump house. Just wanted something you could just sit and play. Right? So how do we make wave sequences? Let's start from scratch. Init, okay? And let's find a sound to start with. So I'm gonna use layer presets, which is a great way to just start in a certain direction. Let's say we want this to be a plucky NATO flute. That'll be a cool. Wave sequences are all about cool rhythmic, aggressive, bright sounds, stuff like that, right? So what we do is let's go over here. We need to use the top layer of MIDI effects. We say empty layer, or you can click right here and go to the layer presets. And I don't think I made one with MIDI box, jitter, and polybox. So I just say MIDI box, and then route this so that it is connected to that MIDI box, or this MIDI effect box, basically, because whatever you put in here is now showing up. If I turn this on, it doesn't make any sound because this MIDI box doesn't have a file in it. So we're gonna go Unify standard library. We could choose anything because all it's doing is looking at the timing, although we want it to be playing a certain note. So let's use one of the poly chords and let's say play this. And we're connected. And why aren't you playing? Oh, let's see. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't working. But this one worked. What was it? This is Arena Entry Chords MIDI. Oh, it was probably one of those that was using an ARP to play, and then it's MIDI data for the filter cutoff and stuff. So, now this has octaves. Let me find one. Let's use this one, right? And then we're gonna go over here and let's duplicate this 3 times. So I have 3, and it's all set up automatically by doing that they're on different MIDI channels. And then we go over here and we add polybox under you creative polybox. And we have 4 as the pool, and all we have to do is say polyphonic for the chords. And now, and I need one more. So I'm gonna go down here and say add. You typically want it to be that it repeats as many times as the sequence of your MIDI file. So, and by doing that, you notice it didn't go to 5. That's because my pool size is at 4. So let's change this to 5. You can make it up to 16 steps. And if I play chords, now it's playing the same sound. So that means I need to go over here. I could go to layer presets. Let's have DX, play a clav bank, and this one here. This is why layer presets are really cool, because you can just quickly say, no, not Cloud City, but let's say JX10. Let's have it be a cool bright pad. So now, and let's say we want another DX, maybe a keyboard bank. And let's say this is the DX bank again. So let's say orchestra. Just like that, we now have 5 steps doing a wave sequence. And if I want to go, oh, that last orchestra thing wasn't very cool, I want to use contact. So I'm going to say contact, and let's have it call up some big string arco thing or something like that. So again, any plugin you own can be used for any layer. So the possible explorations of this are just nuts. So let's say emotive strings. I think this has No, that's not the right one. Let's use Session Strings Pro. I always get confused as far as to which of these to load because, and let's say the articulation. Oh, this is MIDI channel 5, right? So I need to tell this to listen to MIDI channel 5, or I could go down here and I could route it to be to MIDI channel 1 because it's looking to MIDI channel 1. That's why. Yeah. This is why we have this MIDI channel rerouting, because MIDI box is talking to MIDI channel 5, but the plugin is on a different MIDI channel as far as what it's listening to. So it's expecting it on MIDI channel 1. So we changed it and, right? Boom, wave sequence. And then if we wanted to, you could go to Cloud City, clear the tags so that you can see everything, get yourself some sort of a cool drum groove going. Everything is tempo synced. So if you go over here and say, chill babe, load this up. And we did a cool thing. we've been talking about a solution to, like, say I've loaded this drum groove. It's not the right drum groove. Now, I could delete this and then reload. That's one way. But we have another way that Shane has come up with that's really cool. Go to the browser, it knows where you were at, and it also knows if you click right here that I had set it to no pitch shift. So that means that as I choose new drum grooves, it automatically maybe I want to do a techno kind of thing. It doesn't do, in the past it would go back to where you play keys and the drums would transpose. It doesn't do that anymore. If you start with it set at no transpose, if you open that Unify layer, you can now surf and change to any drum kit program you want from anywhere you want. I could go to Big Bad Beats and choose a groove from here, and there you go. Okay, so wave sequences, it just works. And if at any time I could go back to the MIDI file and go, try other MIDI files. And there's one more thing to show you. One more thing. Inside of Polybox is a random button. So now it will randomize between MIDI channels 1 and 5. So So you can randomize it, so now it's not a sequence, it's just random every. Or you could have it be sequenced and not random. Right? So there's all sorts of places now to play, because the MIDI file could be anything. I could go over here. Let me mute the drum so I don't drive you guys nuts. I'm gonna go to Unify, or I'm in Logic, right? So I'm gonna go. Okay, I just played that. I could go over here and I believe it's all set. We now have it set. So if I open MIDI box, I can take this MIDI sequence that I just recorded inside of Logic, and I can click and I believe drag it. No, I probably still have to save it as a MIDI file. We have drag and drop of MIDI files into Unify, but not from, right? It's not letting me do it. So we could say JL Jam and export as a MIDI file, desktop save. And I called it Livestream, I believe. Cool. So now I could go to the desktop and take this and drag it into here. No, I thought it could do that, but it can't. Desktop, Livestream, Midi file. And it has my timing. And I didn't quantize this, I don't believe. Oh, I think I did. Yeah, it's quantized. But it's my timing. I played it, and that's what's controlling it. So, all sorts of avenues of new fun musical mayhem are available to you. So, the download is free to everybody that owns Unify 1.2. You can get the download by logging into your Plugin Guru account, or you can get it by going to the Ilio website I showed you, and that's ilio.com where's it? Unify-updates. And that also has the files right here for you to download. So if you've had problems in the past and needed a Dropbox links from us, we're going to point you here first to try these, because these will get you to, they have super fast downloads, great service. And you can also check to see what other things they have, their products, they have deals. As I said, they distribute a lot of companies. So you guys should know about Ilio. They're a good family. They released Big Bad Beats over 20 years ago. When I released my first library outside of my work for Korg, it was with Ilio distributing it. So they've been like dear family for me for so long. And now it's in Unify and my own plugin. Life is good. Super cool stuff. So thank you. We'll do this again tomorrow at 12 o'clock p.m. If you have questions, okay, good to see you, Steve. Hey, Tim. Good to see everybody. So we'll do this again tomorrow. We're at an hour and 20 minutes. So I'm going to say sayonara for the day. Unify support at pluginguru.com if you have any technical questions or anything like that. Sounds like everybody's having a good time. We have drag and drop from the other way. Oh, from Midi box. I see. Right. Okay. Right. So if I was to take the Midi file that's here, and if I wanted it to be in my DAW, that's what we can do now. I was like, we have drag and the drop somehow. Drag and drop. So I can take this and drag, and it becomes a Midi file right here. So it put it in there, right? So that works. You can do it that way to get the Midi file. That's for Big Bad Beats. These libraries like this where you now want to take and re-quantize the feel and stuff instead of having it be just what it is inside of Midi box. Okay. Shout out from wherever you are if you want, and I'll shout out some countries and states and says. Shout out from PDX. Thank you all for your support. Shane and I thank you very much for your support. Shane has a little tool wrench now by his name, so he can reply and stuff, which is cool. He can put links, which is great. And yeah, can you demonstrate using 2 MIDI controllers? I mean, 2 keyboards. Let's see. Well, I'm using a Machine Jam and this right now, which are, you could consider this to be 2 separate keyboards. I can play notes here. And if they were different MIDI channels, then I would go here to where the MIDI channel is, and I'd have one set to MIDI channel 1, have another layer to MIDI channel 2, and tell your other keyboard to transmit on MIDI channel 2, and that way you have 2 different sounds on 2 different MIDI channels, and then you can save that, and it'll save into the patch that way. Oh, from Atlanta, shout out from Ehrenberg, shout out from Boulder, Colorado. Make 100 instances of Arturia. Cool. I dare you. All right, Nacho Doggy, you do that. Go for it. You can do anything you want. Um, shout out from Wales, Tim. Good to see you. Tim is and Larry. I see a number of people here that are beta testers. Thank you guys for your help. We have a nice solid release, it looks like, for everybody. So we're very happy with how this works. Just to show you just a partial list, all these libraries have been unified. Del Norte will be out maybe in the next couple days. And this is both a cool library of multi-sampled synths for my Access virus. We'll see if I can get this out by tomorrow. Some of these sounds you will find inside of Unify with the Guru sampler. Like if I, let's see, open up Unify. One other thing we did that's really cool, if you're in the standalone version of Unify, used to be that if you just closed here, it would quit. And now it pops up, are you sure? So you can't accidentally quit that way. Command Q. Oh, it's supposed to say, are you sure? But it didn't. Maybe it's because something else is running. Anyway, it will pop up and say, are you sure? I don't know why it's not doing it right now. Maybe because Unify is already up and running. Maybe there's 2 versions of Unify up, it does that? I don't know. But anyway. Well, yeah. Thank you to Tony for the beta testing that he did and stuff like that. And shout out to all of you wherever you are. We will see you tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow for another live stream, okay? Cheers. Be well. Thank you for your support, okay? Bye.